Alright, just as a little warning before you listen to the Q&A, when I originally recorded it like a week and a half ago or something, the sound quality got corrupted somehow. Like it's still, you can still hear it, and I'm not going to go back and re-record an hour-long Q&A. But this is just to warn you, it sounds as if I recorded from like a headset or something, which I don't understand because there's only one device hooked up to my computer that can pick up sound, so I don't know how I got corrupted, but the sound quality isn't the best. And yeah, so here's the Q&A. Here's Q&A number 23. A little over a month from the last time I made one, for a few reasons. First off, you see, it's gotten a little bit hot where I live now, so whenever I record these things, I usually sit in my room for about an hour, and it's not a fun thing to sit in my room for an hour talking when it's really hot, because I just have my fan on, and I don't like it. I don't like recording when it's hot. And we finally got our AC fixed, like, just today. My AC has been broken for a really long time. We finally got it fixed, so I thought, hey, I should probably do this too, especially since my sister is out of town right now. Because another reason I didn't do it is because my sister had a baby recently, because I live with my two sisters, and so she's been home for maternity leave. And the new baby is well behaved and really quiet, but since she's home, she also has my nephew staying with her, who's 4 years old, and he's loud all the time. So it's really a pain in the ass to record videos when he's just screaming randomly for no reason, because he's a toddler, and that's what toddlers do. So, yeah, anyways, let's see, I actually, organized a list for this, so I should be able to finish this video somewhat quickly, with less rambling on. Maybe, I don't know, I always say that, and it ends up being over an hour anyway. Okay, so first up with this, I'll talk about videos since the last time I made one of these. How many have I made? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos since last time. And then I'll go over questions and then random stuff in between. So, first video I made from last time, History of Divine Shield. Anything interesting about that video? No, not really. In fact, I thought the video would be a little bit boring. But I just included lots of fun facts and it was okay. 3-minute long video. It didn't do terrible, but it didn't do well either. And I do remember when I was making that video, for some reason my Sony Vegas crashed so many times while making it. I think I had to render out that video like 10 times before it finally worked. It was a huge pain in the ass for a video that should have been a really quick edit. Because of the new way I do the history videos, it makes it a lot easier to edit them. And it makes it look like they're kind of professional-ish, even though it actually is just an easier way to do it. Tricking you into thinking I'm putting more effort into it when it actually allows me to be lazier. After that, I have the 15 fun facts about resurrection. Well, you see, for this video, someone on my Facebook page actually messaged me and was like, hey, I wrote down all these fun facts about res, maybe you can make a video about it. And I read through them, and I was like, resurrection, that doesn't sound like a good idea for a video. And then I read through his list, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually pretty interesting. I didn't know half the things on here. This would make a good idea for a video. So I went out and researched a couple of my own and fact-checked some of his facts. Not all of them. And it turns out some of the things said were wrong, because they were involving the Legion Alpha, which changed while I was making the video. Like, they were right at the time, but then they changed, and I said it as if it was a matter of fact, like, oh, this is how it is currently in the alpha, but actually, they had already changed like a couple weeks before I made the video, because he sent me the facts like a month before I actually made the video. So they were probably true at the time, but I didn't fact-check the alpha statements. I did fact-check the other things, and some of them were wrong, but I just updated them to the correct information. It was still kind of interesting, but whatever. That's what I get for not fact-checking everything, I guess. Yeah, that video, I don't know if it's doing well or not. It did good enough. If it was a failure, I would know. I don't think, of all the videos I put out since the last time I made one of these videos, I think only one of them is not doing very well. The rest of them are doing a lot better than I thought they would. Alright, so after the 15 res facts video, I have RP Player Does a Dungeon. This is like one of the few machinimas I've made that isn't a Dave and DevBot episode, or an interactive story. And it's a comedy that's not Dave and Devbot. You see, with Dave and Devbot, it's a lot easier to do that one because it already has like an established story and characters, and I don't have to think up everything. And the jokes are kind of self-contained into the series itself with lots of in-jokes, which is something I don't really... Well, I'm not going to talk about that. Anyways, RP Player, it's basically just an exaggerated role player who loves to spam pyroblasts, and that's basically his whole stick. I remember, after I made the video, for some of the videos I make, I'll make like a behind-the-scenes video for Patreon. So I have like an hour-long unlisted video on my channel that only my Patreon subs can watch that goes over everything about the behind-the-scenes of that video, including how I made the characters and everything. And I'm only saying that because I totally forgot what I based the main character on. Henrik Cross. With him, I basically just typed in like role player names, and I chose one from the list, and that's why the mage is named Henrik Cross. The fact that he only spams Pyroblast, I basically based his character on two different characters, one of them being Nylock from Tome, it's like a Newground series, and Megumi from Konosuba, because she only ever uses explosion spell, so he's an over-exaggerated role player like Nylock, and his gimmick is that he only spams Pyroblast like Megumi, and I thought that would make a really fun character, and lots of people loved him. They thought he was hilarious, especially since I put lots of effort into the timing of the jokes, that way they'd go off, and the sound effects and everything. I even had like because there's these people who like to dub videos into Russian. They've dubbed a couple of my videos into Russian. Usually what they do is they take my video, and they'll like re-record some of the parts, that way they have Russian names instead of the English ones, and then they'll just use that video. I think what's an example? Like they took my top 10 Ghosts in WoW video, and they basically just reshot all of the scenes so they can get them through Russian WoW, but it's literally the same exact video, the same script, everything's in the same order, it's just they reshot it and they basically rebanded it as their own. They basically just stole the video, but in Russian, which I'm actually okay with. I don't really care. It's Russian. I'm not losing any audience there, because if people are watching the video in Russian, they wouldn't be watching it in English on my channel anyway. So yeah. Anyways, they actually asked me if they could do a Russian dub of this video. I was like, wow, they only ever Russian dub Nixium's videos. Because with Machinima videos, you can't do what they do, where they reshoot the footage. Because that would take a lot of fucking hard work. Because Machinimas take forever to get footage for. Machinimas are ridiculous. The RP Player Dungeon one took me like 3 times more longer to make than my top 10 glitches raid boss video. Which I put out like a week ago, which is almost 15 minutes long. And RP Player Does a Dungeon is only 3 minutes long. But yeah, so I thought the video was good. Even after I watched the video a million times while I was putting it together, I still thought the jokes were pretty funny, so I really like that video. And then after that, I made Fact or Crap Old Gods Edition. You see, for that video, I wrote the script before the Warcraft Chronicle books came out, or was even like announced, like a really long time ago. I think after I made all my Old God videos, I was like, I'll make a Fact or Crap Old God video, now that I have all these Old God videos on my channel. And then they announced Chronicles, which retcons a whole bunch of the Old God lore. So I was like, I literally have to wait for the information to come out. Otherwise, if I release it before Chronicles comes out, all of this information is just going to be wrong. And I'd be like, why would you release a video a week before Chronicles comes out with just wrong Old God facts? It's like, well, I mean, I already have like the script written, and I don't want to get rid of the script. It's a good script. I think it'll do well. And I put it out with all of the new information, and a lot of people got the answers wrong. They were mad, like, this is wrong. I was like, no, it's actually brand new information. All the things you thought you knew about the Old Gods are wrong now. So yeah, sorry about that. I typed that out to a lot of people who were commenting in this section. Another thing is, though, for that video, I put a lot of effort into making a lot of the Old God pictures into like 2.5D moving pictures. So I have the picture of what's his name, Yasharaj. There are no pictures of Yasharaj or Inzoth. Well, there wasn't when I made the video. I always have to use that drawing of Inzoth I made. Thanks to the new Hearthstone expansion, we're finally going to have artwork of Yasharaj and Inzoth, so that would have been nice when I made that video, but anyways, yeah, if you take a close look at the video, a lot of the scenes where it's just like still, like it was basically 100% still images. I used very little actual in-game footage, but I did take a lot of time and effort to animate a lot of the pictures into 2.5D, which is a animation style that you don't really see very often, but I think it looks really good. There'll probably be some examples up on the screen if I remember to do it, or maybe not if I'm just lazy and I put up Iron Man footage from a stream or something. But yeah, I put a lot of effort into making that video look good, and it's not doing very well, but I didn't really expect it to. All of the Factor Crap videos, like, they don't do terribly, but they also don't do very well either. It's like, it's a very mediocre, I don't know. It's like they do well enough where I could put out more of them, and I get people asking for more all the time, but they don't do, you know, like super well I'll put them out all the time, like a top 10 video. They're like in the middle. It's not like Dave and DevBot where they're literally not worth my time to do because I do so poorly. But they're also not really well-received series like my top 10 videos, which all do very well all the time. I don't think I've ever had a top 10 video do badly. And then there's everything in between where I experiment. Factor Crap videos were an experiment I tried, and they turned out to be a little bit on the higher end of videos that do well. So like, none of them do very well, but they do garner views over time, so it's worth putting them out. Otherwise, I'd just be doing nothing but top 10 videos, and I'd run out of ideas very quickly. This is why I put out other videos in between my top 10 videos. Most people on this channel, they only subscribe just to watch my top 10 videos, and everything else is just ooh, maybe I can try this out. Everything else is just filler until a new top 10 video comes out for most people who subscribe to the channel. But sometimes, the other videos I do, they do okay as well. Very rarely. If I look at my list of, like, my top 10 most well-performing videos, I think 2 of them on that list are not top 10 videos. No, 8. Because I know for a fact my 50 fun facts video and my 107 facts, I guess I should add, whatchamacallit, my top 10 videos are my most well-performing videos, and my second best performing videos are my fact videos, which are basically just less researched top 10 videos, because top 10s I actually go in and research, and I have to put it into a script that flows into each other, and there's a reason why they're at places in the list. Like, it's usually just arbitrary, like the places on the list, but I have to make it seem like they're not arbitrary. Like, there's a reason, I don't know, let's see, what's his name? Like, there's a reason Hiru is number 1 on my hardest raid bosses list. Like, all the other bosses on the list are hard, too. But why is Hiru harder than everyone else? Those are the things I have to figure out. And those are things you can't just find by looking, because there's going to be a lot of different opinions on who's the strongest raid boss in the game, or who's the hardest one. So you have to weigh the options against yourself. Or like when I did the top 10 strongest characters, figuring out which one was stronger in relation to the other ones, and which ones to leave on the list, and which ones to take out. Because I usually, when I make a list, I always get more than 10 things. Like, for the top 10 strongest characters, my list is like 25 characters I could have put on the list. And I cut out 15 and chose 5 from that list. Well, actually, I cut out 14 and chose 11, and then I combined 2 of them to number 1 with Archimon and Kil'jaeden. Because it's like, I'm not going to do these separate. They're basically the same person. And then I had to rate them all against each other. I was like, okay, now how are these guys stronger than each other? Because these ones I left off the list are also pretty damn strong, and they might actually be able to be on the list. I don't know. Also, the ones I put on the list, I can't just use the ones that are purely strong. I have to put in popular ones as well. Because if I leave off a popular character who's strong, people will get pissed. Like how I left off Gul'dan and people bitch at me all the time about... I think I get a new message like every other day. Why isn't Gul'dan on this list? Because he's not that strong. If you could just look at my research material, you'd see, compared to all the other characters out of my list, Gul'dan would be like number 25 on the list. He's really not that strong. He's a strong character in Warcraft, but he's not strong enough to be on the list. But since Gul'dan is a popular character, You have to consider that when making these videos, because, like, okay, I have to consider, one, the actual list in objective terms, and two, the popularity of the things on the list. So, needless to say, top 10 videos, they actually have a lot of effort that goes into them. While fact videos, you can literally just put everything in. You don't have to think about that. You can put them in any order. You don't have to write them in a way where they flow into each other. Nope, you can just state the facts and then make the video. They're easy peasy. That's why I have so many more of those, and I have top 10 videos. And they do about as well as my top 10 videos. They don't do as well, thankfully. That would actually be kind of sad if my most well-done videos were my least... Well, they're not the least effort videos I have. The least effort videos I have are like the stream VOD footages or something like that. The list videos still take some effort too, but not as much effort as like everything else I make. They're like the second or third least amount of effort videos I could make. The hardest thing with those is just finding interesting facts that people don't know about already. Or finding interesting facts that other popular YouTubers haven't already covered. Or if you do, put them in a way to organize them in a list, like top 10. No, not top 10. Like 5 facts about the Burning Legion you probably didn't know about. And then just find 10 facts. The facts can be from lore, from game, from whatever. Those are easy to make. And they get lots of views. So yeah, those are my 2 most popular types of videos. Top 10s and fact videos. Everything else is just kind of filler in between. Sometimes they do well. I have 2 videos in my, like I said, top 10 most viewed videos. 2 of them are not top 10s or fact video, which I'm totally proud of. I was like, I wish I could get more in that list, though. I think my top 10 hardest raid boss video is going to hit 1 million views pretty soon. That'll be cool. Alright, so that's Factor Crap Old Gods. Next up we have How to Kill Hogger. A second machinima right after RP Player does a dungeon. Another comedy machinima that's 3 minutes long. That's not a Dave and Devbot episode. How to Kill Hogger, I think I got a couple of comments actually about you should make a video about how to kill Hogger. And I get video ideas all the time. Sometimes I'll take them, most of the time I don't, because they're kind of dumb. I was like, how to kill Hogger, that sounds like a dumb idea. But I was like, oh, I could probably turn that into a funny video. So I was like, how to kill Hogger, and then I just like wrote the script. And after I wrote the script, I was like, oh, this seems pretty fun. Usually when I write a script, I just sit down and then just write whatever comes to my mind. And I rarely actually revise them. So the one you see is basically like the first draft of the script I wrote, where I use my AM radio voice. Basically, I just talk like normal. Well, I don't talk like normal. I put some kind of thing into it. Like, how to kill Hogger. Oh, I need more than that. I can't just use one sentence. It's like a radio, old-time radio voice. That's the narrator voice I use. And I also add an effect to it to make it sound like I'm talking from old-time radio. And then I have a little kid voice because I make a joke about how the character is 12 years old in the very, like, first 5 seconds of the video because I thought that would be funny. The only thing is, after I wrote the script and while I was making the video, I was like, holy shit, this is very similar to Wild Krendor's Billy videos. Like, in those ones, he basically has a narrator talking to Billy who does, like, the same stupid voice I did, where he's talking to a dumb player. Only reason I did it, like, the way I did it was because there was a joke in the video where I specifically say that the character's 12 years old. I didn't mean to actually, copy the voice. After I made the video, I was like, oh, I have a 4-year-old nephew who lives in the house who can talk in complete sentences. I could have totally just had him do the lines. And then I think, oh, wait, never mind. Getting him to actually say the lines would be a huge pain in the ass. Getting a child to do what you want, especially when it's spoiled as him, is not hard. I mean, it's not an easy task, but yeah. So while I was making the video, I was like, this is very similar to Wild Krendor's video. The thing is, though, Wild Krendor didn't exactly invent the whole narrator talking to a kid and explaining him what to do scenario. That's been around since television has existed. I think I first saw it in like an instructional like 50s video in black and white. It's been around forever. I'm pretty sure that's why Wild Krendor got the idea. But I also know that people on the internet don't know this stuff. They'll think Wild Krendor invented the idea and I'm just copying him. And that's something I had to think about. I was like, ugh, crap. Should I just scrap this video because people are going to call me a copier? Oh, but it's such a funny script. I really like it. And I had the moral dilemma, and I was like, let's just see how it does. I didn't copy him, and let's see. It's not that similar to the kinds of videos he does. It's done in a very different tone. So I put it out, and it did fine. No one complained about how it was a copycat, unless they were doing it sarcastically. And I was like, I worried about this for nothing. I even had people ask me to do more videos like it. I don't have any ideas for another one. Just like how I don't have any more ideas to do more RP player does a X thing in WoW. I only had the one idea for an RP player doing a dungeon, and I don't have any more ideas for that. Same with how to kill Hogger. I only had the one idea for Hogger, and I don't have any more ideas. So I could do more, but I don't have any ideas currently. So don't expect them. Just think of those as like one-off things. I might do more in the future if I think of a good idea, because the ideas for those two just kind of popped into my head randomly one day. And that's how I get most of my creative ideas. The ideas I do for other videos like top 10s or facts, I can find those while I'm browsing Reddit or watching other YouTube videos. Like, ooh, that would make a good idea for a video. But the creative ideas like Dave and DevBot, I created that series just off the cuff one day, just randomly. And I have I have like 10 episodes for that planned out that I created just randomly one day. I was like, oh, that would be a neat idea for a story. I can turn that into a Dave and DevBot episode. Or if I watch like a TV show or an anime or a movie and they have an interesting development or plot or something, I was like, I can totally turn that into a Dave and DevBot episode, or twist it around or do something with it. What I like to do, actually no, I'll talk about that later. Let's go on to the next one. I'll stop myself from going on a tangent. Safe to say, how to kill Hogger video, it's doing well. A lot better than I expected. Both RP Player does a dungeon and How to Kill Hogger, they both have over 20,000 views. They've both done way better than any Dave and DevBot episode, which is really good. It turns out people do like the machinimas I make, as long as they're not Dave and DevBot. I get it though. Dave and DevBot is a really weird type of humor, while RP Player and How to Kill Hogger are very more general types. Like, anyone can watch the video and laugh at it. While Dave and DevBot is the type of humor like, yeah, that's kind of fucking weird. But it's my type. They're two different types of humor. They're both funny videos, but one of them is part of a series, which is also a detriment to it. You really don't want to have a series of videos that are comedy like that. But yeah, anyways, I have more ideas than just Dave and DevBot. I actually do want to well, I'll talk about that later. Next up, we have top 10 glitchiest raid bosses. Where did I get the idea for this one at? I think I just got it from like my idea list. I have like a fucking script. I have a saved thing on my desktop that's just full of list ideas. I think I just chose it. I was like, this seems like an interesting idea. Let me research it. Oh, I love top 10 videos. They're so much easier to make than having to be creative for a machinima. So anyways, I researched glitchy raid bosses, and I found like all of 5. I was like, there has to be way more than this. There has to be more than just 5 glitchy raid bosses. And it was 5, and a couple of them were kind of stretches. Like, I can't really turn this into an option because it's really just one thing and it's kind of minor. What I want are glitchy raid bosses where the glitches were kind of a big deal. So, what I do when I have a top 10 idea that I think will do good, because the top 10 glitches raid bosses video is doing very well right now. I think it's like nearing 50,000 views, and I put it out a week ago, which is really fucking good for a video. And it's probably going to do a lot better too as time goes on. Top 10 videos, they never actually just stop getting views. They just keep going and going higher and higher, which is great. If I made nothing but top 10 videos, well, I don't really need to. I make enough money as is. I wouldn't have to worry about ad revenue, is what I probably should say. I make enough, but I don't make enough where if my living expenses weren't as cheap as they are, I'd probably have to worry about money a little bit more than I do. Because as it is, I'm able to live my life I do making videos like this because my bills are very cheap and I don't have any dependents or anything. Like, I make more than minimum wage, but barely more. if I made nothing but top 10 videos, I think I'd make a little bit more than I do now. But, I mean, I like just making them every once in a while instead. I also like to put a lot of effort into them, so they take quite a while. I put a lot of time into the research for the videos. I already went over that, though. Anyways, what I was talking about was top 10 glitchiest raid bosses. Well, I was researching the video. When I say research, I mean lots of Googling and Bing searches. And then I read pages and pages of forums and Reddit, well, not a lot of Reddit posts, pages and pages of forums. And there wasn't a lot of information. So what I did was I went on Reddit and made a thread. I was like, what are some of the most glitchiest raid bosses? And I put out the examples I found through my research. And then I let it sit for a day, and I came back the next day, and there was tons of examples of people giving their anecdotal glitchy raid boss experiences, which is awesome. I only ever put threads on Reddit to get information if I can't find the information myself. So this is like the third time I've done it, I think. I think I've done it 2 other times. I can't remember. This is either the second or third time I've done it. I don't do it a lot. I think it's the third time. I can't remember. I do it so infrequently. Last time I did was like a year ago. That's how many times I have to do it. This is just to show you how fucking hard it was to find top 10 glitchy raid bosses. It was like I made a Reddit thread. That's like my last resort. And it's always a really good resort because people are more than happy to give the information as long as you trick it out of them by posing in the question like, hey, what are some of the glitchiest raid bosses? And they're like, ooh, I have an experience I can share right here. Like the threads themselves, they never get upvoted very high, but they always get a decent amount of comments where I can actually use it for a video. So anyways, people linked a whole bunch of stuff, and someone linked like this 2 pages from like a mana flask thing from the site is called Mana Flask, I think. You know, on the site they have the 2 things, like a guy who rated hardcore in vanilla and BC. He wrote 2 different blog posts going like over all the bosses and either exploits of the bosses that made them really hard to get a world first, or exploits they used to kill the bosses. And there was a ton of them, like all of the notable bosses in vanilla and BC. And I was like, this is a gold mine. This is so good, I can actually make 2 videos from this. My top 10 glitchiest raid bosses and a top 10 most exploited raid bosses. I'm obviously not going to use, I'm not going to take everything from that site and turn it into a list because, well, I don't like to get all my sources from one place. So what I did, I took like half of them from those websites. And then I got the other half from the research I gathered and the research from the Reddit thread. And I made the video. And I also made another video. Well, I haven't made it yet. I just recorded the scripts, and I have about 90% of the footage gathered. So I'm about to start putting it together, but I'm like at the halfway point. Since these videos don't really take that long to put together. Since the video is mostly in-game footage. In-game footage videos are the easiest videos to make. I love videos where I can use in-game footage. I think that's why I chose the idea top 10 glitches raid bosses, since I knew I could just get in-game footage for almost the entire thing. So much easier. Like, top 10 strongest characters. That video took forever to make, because a lot of the characters I mentioned don't have any in-game footage, which means I have to create footage or get still images and pan across them. I don't like doing that. That's why I was really learning how to do like the 2.5D images I did in the Old God video, the Factor Crap one. That video was more of an experiment on creating 2.5D pictures rather than it was making a video. It was like a best of both worlds, I guess. I've done 2.5D in other videos before, but never as much as I did in the Old God videos, because it takes a long time to do those. But yeah, so I really love videos where I don't have to do 2.5D or use still images. I can just get in-game footage because it makes my editing job a lot easier. And Glitches Raid Bosses was a great video for that. And the next one I'm doing, top 10 most exploited raid bosses. Because like I said, I had enough information to do both, so I went to those 2 articles again, and I took like half of them, and I got another half from other outside resources. Because when I make the video for raid bosses, I like to make the video and include bosses from like every single expansion. Like if I just made an objective list of like the most top 10 glitchiest raid bosses, they'd probably all be from vanilla. In which case, I might as well just say top 10 vanilla glitchiest raid bosses. But no, it's a general one. So what I do is I make sure to look for ones from BC and Wrath, Cataclysm, Mist, and if I can, I really love to include ones from the current expansion. That's why I put Throgar, the keyboard turn one. I had so many other raid bosses I could have put with like really cool glitches from vanilla or BC. In my top 10 glitches raid boss video, but I took it out. That way I could include the minor bug, where the Throgar, the train boss, if you keyboard turned when the train went through you, it would sometimes just pass through you harmlessly. It's a minor bug, but I made sure to include in the video, that way I'd have diversity in the video, and it wouldn't all just be vanilla and BC, since I think about that kind of stuff when I do it. So, for the exploited raid bosses, I did the same thing. I include a section from Hans and Franz, which, looking for that exploit, I knew there was an exploit for Hans and Franz from Blackrock Foundry, but I could not find information for it anywhere I looked. It was such a pain in the ass. It took me like an hour of research just to find one little article translated from Chinese explaining the glitch, because the exploit was mainly exploited by Chinese servers before it was fixed. That was a pain in the ass, but I was able to include it, and that, I was like, oh, that fulfills my obligation for putting a raid boss from Warlords of Draenor. Now I can just do the rest with vanilla and BC and do an easy job. And I was like, nope, I'm going to include some from other expansions as well, because I take these videos seriously, somewhat seriously, not too serious. The order they're in is still pretty arbitrary, but you know, sometimes it's pretty easy to think, oh, this will totally be a good option to put at number 1. Yeah, so, glitchiest raid boss video. Easy video put together, pain in the ass to research. Took me about a week to actually get all the research for it, to be honest, but it wasn't like a week straight. A lot of the research required me to just wait. That's why it took longer, because when I made the Reddit thread, I had to wait for the, thread to get people to reply to it. Okay, so, damn, that took 30 minutes. I knew I'd do this. Okay, so I already told you about the next video I'm making. I already have 2 scripts written for my next 2 videos. Next one, like I already said, is going to be top 10 exploited raid bosses. I already have like in half done. And the video after that is going to be my April Fool's video, which is going to be Garrosh did nothing wrong. It's just going to be a straight up serious video explaining why Garrosh probably wasn't that bad of a guy. Very seriously. It's going to use a whole bunch of evidence from the series itself. At the end of the video, you'd have to be crazy not to see Garrosh in a more positive light. And I think that's a great idea for an April Fool's video, because Garrosh is an asshole. He's just a huge dick. There's nothing redeeming about him. But the video script I wrote totally makes it seem like, Garrosh, he wasn't that bad of a guy. I actually kind of feel sorry for him. After I read my own script. I know it's bullshit. Like, the information I use isn't bullshit. I do fudge a couple of the facts a little bit. I kind of exaggerate a few things that could probably be taken a different way, but it totally makes Garrosh seem like a better guy than he is. And at the very end of the video, like during the credit scenes after I finish the dramatic video, I say, well, so was I able to convince you? Do you see Garrosh in a more positive light? If so, now you know exactly how propaganda works, because Garrosh is actually a huge asshole. And if you think he's a better person because of all this, you obviously don't know the whole story, because I intentionally left out a ton of positive shit that cannot be redeemed. Things that at the very end of War Crimes, the novel, after the entire book of them trying to prove Garrosh wrong, his crime, and he had someone defending him saying he's not that bad of a guy. At the very end, when he's escaping the prison, he's about to go to the alternate dimension to start Warlords of Draenor. He says to everyone in attendance at his trial, "Ha, fuck you guys, I don't repent anything. If I could, I'd do everything I did again. In fact, the only thing I regret is not killing more people." Like, he didn't say that exactly, but he said in so many words exactly that. He's just a huge, huge asshole. And I thought this video would be a really funny idea, because I know people don't know a lot about lore. And if I made this video, there's going to be a ton of people who are going to take the video seriously. And they're like, oh gosh, he wasn't that bad of a guy, because I make a very well convincing case about it. I think it's too I think the sarcasm is too strong on that one. It has to be uploaded on April 1st. It really can't work on any other day. Like, this is an April Fool's video because it's too serious. And I also don't tell them that, I mean, at the end of the video, you'll see when you watch the video. I already have the script done, and the script's pretty good, if I do say so myself. But then again, I have a very high opinion of myself, so I have to try to, like, bring it down. There are some people who, when they start doing YouTube and everything, they, all of a sudden get all this attention, and they get a big ego, and they don't know how to control themselves. Well, I already had a very huge ego before I started in YouTube, and I've had, like, my entire life to learn how to keep it in check. So, like, YouTube hasn't changed me at all. I'm still the same person I always have been. Other than the fact I probably ignore more people than I usually did. I've gotten a lot better at dealing with trolls, too. Best way to deal with trolls is just to ignore them. I used to try to fight them back because a normal person doesn't get interaction with trolls very often. It's like a once in a few weeks kind of thing, once in a couple months. When it becomes a daily thing, you get a lot better at just, ignoring it, because it's literally not worth your time. Other than that, I'm still pretty much the same person. I've always had a huge ego, and I know how to keep it in check. And I know a huge ego is not a very attractive personality trait, so I try to hide it. I try to pretend to be humble, because people will like you a lot better if they think you are. You can even say, oh yeah, I kind of a big ego, but, it's not that bad. It's not like I go around bragging about everything I do, even though I totally do. It's more of a humble brag, though. Yeah, that's the right word for it. Anyways, let's see. Next on my list of things to talk about, it says, mention D&D and plans for it. Oh yeah, I'm going to be playing Dungeons & Dragons for the first time on Monday. I gotta finish my character sheet. Basically, I created a bard whose personality type is basically he's DevBot. He's a conspiracy nut. I thought that'd be fun to play. Anyways, for Dave and DevBot, I have the next episode. I have like the next 10 episodes written out already, so it's not a fact of like not having ideas for it. It's more of a fact I need to put together. The next episode is going to be DevBot versus the Illuminati, and I want it to be really fucking weird, and I want the effects to be on point, and I want to have different styles. So it's going to be a really long. It's not going to be a long video. I want to make it as short as possible. Probably like a minute or two. It's going to be a really short video. Probably the shortest one in the series. But it's going to have a lot of effects in it because it's basically just going to be a fight where they go across different dimensions, and DevBot reveals that he can channel Cthulhu's power for like a second or two. And he summons a bunch of tentacles, and that's going to be a pain in the ass to animate. And then one part is going to take place in Flash, and I have to draw all those scenes out. Another time it's going to take place with like bitmap images, and I have to... It's basically going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a short video, but it's a lot of work. I'm working on it. I work on it whenever I have enough free time, because I can't realistically dedicate a huge amount of time to it, because Dave and DevBot videos don't do well enough to warrant me dedicating enough time to it. It's kind of like, I have to... Say you have a schedule for the day. You have to sleep for like 8 hours, and you have like 4 hours to spend time with friends and family, and then you have another 8 hours at work, and then you have like another 2 or 3 hours for free time. I'm pretty sure that doesn't equal up to 24 hours, but you get what I'm talking about. You have to schedule your time. I basically can't treat a Dave and DevBot episode as, the 8 hours of work. I have to treat it as like my 4 hours of free time, because they don't do well enough to warrant it being treated as work. It's more of a passion project I do for fun. That's why I haven't put it out yet. But one of these days, I might just do it. It's like, this is going to be my next work project. I won't put out a new top 10 or something else for like the next week or two, and instead I'll just work on this video. So it's coming. That'll be the only video that's going to take a long time to make, though. Or I might just... I also have a backup plan in case I don't want to put all the effort into the fight scene. In which case, I'll just have them do the fight off screen, and then they'll just do jokes instead. And I have a alternate script in case I get lazy and I don't want to do it. Also, for those of you who don't know, I have a Twitter account for DevBot where he just spouts out conspiracy theories. I think that's pretty funny. I think I update like every other day or something. Oh, I should also mention, like, there's this other guy who does machinima videos called MiriQL. I think I'll put like one of his videos up here, if I remember. I probably won't. I'm probably going to be too lazy for that. Or I'll probably link it in the description or something. He does these really good fight scene videos, and that's kind of like where I got the idea for actually putting a lot of effort into Dave to DevBot versus the Illuminati. Because MiriQL's video, he does some really good action scenes in machinimas that I didn't know was possible. You should totally check it out. It's really good. I didn't even know stuff in that stuff was possible. He really deserves way more notice and recognition than he has right now. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick little water break because I think I have something stuck in my throat, and then I'll actually go into the questions. After all that time I spent organizing this list, that way I could make my Q&A more organized and go faster, I still ended up talking about my last videos for 40 minutes. Then again, it has been like a month, so there was more videos to talk about this time than usual. Okay, on to the questions. This time I actually went through and just copied and pasted questions. I don't have to read through it. Question number 1, by Shrek the Ogre. Shrek the Ogre says, can't wait for Legion to suck dick. Good old Shrek the Ogre. Shrek the Ogre is this guy who likes to troll my streams and pretty much every video I put out with Vanilla's better, Warlords of Draenor sucks, everything sucks except Vanilla. It's pretty funny stuff. He's a harmless troll. Next up, we have Turtle Beach. Just wondering, what days do you usually stream on YouTube? Or is it just kind of random? Well, Turtle Beach. I stream on YouTube's every Saturday, except I'm actually creating this Q&A right now in place of a stream because I don't feel like streaming. Like, I'd rather just do the Q&A. So usually every Saturday, unless I decide not to do it. But most of the time I do. And sometimes I do randomly stream on Twitch. But there's no consistent schedule for that. I wonder if you guys can hear my dog barking. I wonder what he's barking at outside. I'm gonna go check that real quick. Such professional recording. Such very wow. I probably want to edit that part out. My dog was just barking at the, the community event that's going on at the park across the street. Because I live right across the street from a small park. And right beyond that small park is a giant open field where they have like a whole bunch of like bouncy houses and a bouncy slide. And pizza and drinks and stuff. Fun stuff. My dog's just barking at that. Makes sense. Almost forgot about that. Maybe I should go check it out. Nah, I don't want to leave my house. Let's see. Next question. Cito says, I find your videos very entertaining, so please keep them coming. Will do, Cito. My question for your next Q&A. What is your favorite food and drink for an all-nighter and WoW with friends? Mine is Tostitos scoops with medium salsa and beer. Wow. Do any of my friends actually even play WoW? Not really. Oh, I guess. I have my guild. I could consider them friends. And then, well, I usually just play WoW by myself. But, besides that point, what's my favorite foods for an all-nighter of playing video games? Believe it or not, I've never actually done an all-nighter. I've never stayed up all night before in my life. I love to sleep. Even during all the WoW launches, I'd play for a little bit and then go to sleep and then wake up in the morning and play. Because I like to sleep. I don't like staying up all day. In fact, I sleep too much, I think. I usually go to bed like around 2 or 3, and then I wake up around 11 or 12 because I can. Because I work from home, and it's awesome. But if I were to stay up all night, I think I tried to on the Warlords launch. And I was like, I'm like around 4 or 5. I'm tired. I'm going to go to sleep. I could probably stay awake if I wanted to, but I don't really want to, because there's lots of bugs. Because the Warlords launch is kind of, some of the quests. There's like so many people doing them, and some of them were bugged, and you couldn't even do them. I was like, I'm just gonna go to bed. Maybe there'll be less people in the morning, and there was. I was like, okay, I'll just do this next time. And for that, I bought a whole bunch of snacks and sodas. Some, because I don't drink beer. I have a very addictive personality, and alcoholism runs in my family, so I avoid that, because there's a very high chance I'd become addicted to it as well. So I just avoid it altogether. Same reason people, avoid crack or something, because they know they'll probably be addicted to it, and that's not something they want to do. So I don't drink beer. Instead, I drink soda, which is also very delicious. And some of my favorite sodas include Vanilla Coke. Love me some Vanilla Coke. Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper is probably my favorite. I drink that more than anything. Code Red Mountain Dew. So much better than regular Mountain Dew. I do also like regular Mountain Dew, and I also tried out one of the new Mountain Dews, the white one. I forget what it's called, but it's basically like Squirt, another kind of soda, but more sweeter, with more caffeine. And I was like, the white Mountain Dew is actually really good. I kind of want to try this more, but it's not a very, universal option. You can only get it at like the gas station. And only if you buy it in like one of the bottles. It's not a fountain drink option. So yeah, mainly Dr. Pepper, Code Red Mountain Dew, or Vanilla Coke. Those are like my three favorites. And then for food, extra hot Cheetos, or what are they called? I think they're called extra hot Cheetos. Not hot Cheetos, but the hotter ones. Very hot, extra hot. I don't know. I have a bag downstairs. Those are my favorite. I made a video, Dave Gets Lost, where Dave goes to the Twisty Nether and runs into a demon. It's basically, it's like inspired from this one comic where a guy wanders into the 7th layer of hell and meets a dragon, and the dragon's like, how did you get here? He's like, well, I got lost on my way to the kitchen. He's like, oh, you made it into the 7th layer of hell by trying to get to your kitchen? Well, I'm not a very smart man. The mission I made was basically Dave going to the Twisted Nether. He's like, well, I was trying to go to the store to buy a bag of extra hot Cheetos. And the demon's like, oh, I love extra hot Cheetos. Are they selling those again? I thought those were a limited time thing. He goes, yeah, they are. They're really great. He goes, once you have those, you just can't go back to the regular ones. Yeah, I know what you mean. And the video is basically them just talking about Cheetos. Because I love extra hot Cheetos. Whew, I don't. Whenever I buy them, though, I always try just to buy like one bag. That way, I don't eat a whole bunch of them. Even when they're on sale, I try just to buy one. It's like, well, because if I have them all, I'll probably eat them all. And that's not good, because I'll just get super fat. So, instead I buy one, I was like, ooh, I'm all out of Cheetos. I could go to the store to buy more, or I could just not eat them. And that's kind of how I control my junk food eating habits. It's just by buying very small quantities of them. Every time I buy soda, I just buy like one can. One of those big cans, though. And that way, if I ever want soda, I don't have any readily available, and I have to actually go out and buy it. And that's how I was able to cut down my soda consumption. Because I used to drink like a 2-liter every day of Dr. Pepper. How the hell did I not die from that? Holy shit. That was really unhealthy. If you do nothing but drink soda and you don't drink water, you should probably get checked for kidney stones or something, because that's not a good way to live. You need water. I drink lots of water, and I don't buy in bulk. I only ever buy like one at a time. That way it's an inconvenience to go out and get junk food. I think that's the best way I'm able to, cut back on the junk food, and it works. I don't eat a lot of junk food. I eat junk food, for sure, but not a lot. It's like a once or twice a week kind of thing. Kind of like how you have to go out and get fast food and stuff. I usually just eat regular food. Like sandwiches. I also don't really like to cook. I know how to cook just fine. I just don't like to. Let's see. So yeah, favorite food, favorite junk food, I'm pretty sure you mean extra hot Cheetos, not the regular shit. And, I do like chocolate pudding. That stuff's pretty good, too. I usually buy the chocolate puddings. And then, like, these Pop-Tarts. They're like chocolate Pop-Tarts, but they have, like, swirls on them. I don't know. It's a specific brand of chocolate Pop-Tarts. Those are pretty good, too. I usually buy those every once in a while as well. Once in a blue moon. because I know I'll eat the entire box if I buy them, and that's a lot of calories. I think each Pop-Tart is like 200 calories. So if you eat the 2 that comes in the pack, because why would you just eat 1 when you open up the little pack? That's like 400 or 500. That's the equivalent of eating like a cheeseburger from McDonald's or hot and spicy. Because I have all these things memorized, because my family has a history of obesity as well as alcoholism, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I like being on the skinny side of the family. So, yeah. Anyways, favorite food and drink, I think I answered that question. Favorite drinks are Dr. Pepper, Coke, Vanilla Coke, and Code Red. Favorite junk foods, extra hot Cheetos. I really like cookies and donuts, too. Okay, on to the next question. E. Stark says, also, ask Kakyo if he would be able to join you in this Q&A and make it about a 2-hour podcast featuring Hellscream. Lol. Yeah, me, Kakyo, and Hellscream, we've been talking about doing a podcast for a while. It's probably not going to happen, for a few reasons. One, podcast requires you to get, 2 other people together for like 2 hours at a time to talk, which can be kind of hard to schedule, even though I know the 2 of them have tons of free time because I'm in the same Skype group as them, and they talk all the time in that chat instead of making videos. And 2, another reason is because even if we went through all that effort, podcasts do not get very many views. It really wouldn't be worth any of our times, even between our 3 audiences, even though we have all like the same audience and we're all friends with each other. I'm decent friends with both Kakyo and Hellscream. I think I talk to both of them every day, but that's mainly through the podcast group. And we could totally do it, but organizing it, because also no one wants to organize it. Get the other 2 to actually come on and, talk for 2 hours. Either Hellscream and Kakyo, they both don't want to organize it, and I don't either. And it's not really worth the time either. So, we've talked about it, but it's something that's probably not going to happen. Instead, we do have like a 3-man Iron Man series we did once on Kakyo's channel, because he's like, hey, let's do a 3-man Iron Man where we all pick druids and we have literally no gear, only our stupid staffs. We can only have our weapons. But we have 3 people doing the Iron Man. It's like, oh, sure, I'll go with that. And we did that. And there's an episode over on Kakyo's channel. Even though it took him 2 weeks to edit the video together. Basically, we recorded the video, and then 2 weeks later he put it out on his channel because he's a really slow editor. And yeah, we're going to do more of those probably. But that's as close as it's going to get to any kind of podcast. And those are going to be over on Kakyo's channel because... Well, actually, I have the footage, too, of it. I recorded my point of view. I just don't really want to make a video about it. I don't really like long Let's Play type videos on my channel. On this channel. I don't mind them on my other channels. I have a channel I could probably put it on, but I don't really want to. I'll let Kakyo do it. Okay, next question. VSGU, the OP Crown, says, Hiru, make more interactive stories, XD. Well, VSGU, the OP Crown, interactive stories take a really long time to make. And they do about as well as the average Dave and DevBot episode. So, they're not worth my time. They don't get enough views to justify the amount of work it takes to make one of those. That being said, I do like making them. It's just they take so long to make that I can't justify all the amount of time it takes. I can only do those on special occasions. That's why I only have 3 of them on the channel, and I don't like talking about one of them. Even though I spent a hell of a long time making that one as well, the one I don't like to mention. It's not a very good one. The other 2 I made are pretty good, though. I do more than just comedy series, machinimas. And I think, actually, now that I think about it, of the machinimas I make, all of the ones that are comedies, they're all very short. The ones that are really long, the 2, well, I guess the 3, I don't like... I'm not even going to mention the 3rd one, I'm just going to say I have 2 interactive stories. The 2 interactive stories I made, they're both very serious. They have jokes in them, but the tone of it is like 95% serious. They're serious stories that tell like a complete story, and you have to get all the endings in order to see the whole picture, which is something I like. It's kind of like I was actually going to play Undertale today when I was thinking about doing the stream. Kind of like Undertale, if you want to get the whole story, you have to play all the endings. But basically, you can just play one ending and you'll be fine. You'll kind of know the story. But if you want to know all the sides of the story, you have to do, all the endings. And that's what those are. The interactive stories. Those are the only ones where I tell a serious story. I could easily make a comedy one. Well, I say easily. It would still take quite a bit of work. Because putting them together takes a really long time. Writing the script takes a long time, too. But the interactive stories, yeah, they're the only serious ones I have. And they take a long time to make, and they don't get enough views to justify the amount of time it takes. That's why I don't make more of them. But I totally would like to make more, and I have plans on making another one, just because, I'm not going to make them regularly, and they'll probably be like a once-a-year thing. I still will do them, every once in a blue moon, but they can't be something I focus my time on, because they don't get enough views, and they take too long. If they did get decent views, I could make more of them, but they don't. So I have to put them in the back burners like I do my Dave and DevBot stuff. Because those take a long time to make too, but they don't get enough views to justify the time to make them. I already explained that. It's basically like, I can either make a DaveBot episode or a video that will get a lot of views. So I have to, delegate Dave and DevBot to my free time work. And making the interactive story, there's no way I could delegate that to free time. I'd have to, seriously put a ton of effort into it, because those take so long to make. But I do have a plan to make another one. I have a script, mostly written for one. Basically, the idea for the interactive story I'm going to make in the future, that I've been writing the script for on and off for a year or two, is it's going to be based in Warcraft again, because whenever I make these things, I usually have an idea, and then I just, turn it into a Warcraft story later on. This one it'll take place right after Garrosh's, or in the middle of Garrosh's trial, and basically it's someone who has a grudge against him because of the Civil War, and he's able to, what he wants to do is mind control Garrosh in his jail cell, that way he can have him kill himself, because he found out that Garrosh is going to get spared by the Celestials. But his spell goes wrong, because Garrosh's cell is surrounded by anti-magic shit. That way no one can use magic in there, no one can break him out or anything. That's how it's supposed to work, but it got broken out anyway through other circumstances that you can read about in the War Crimes novel. But anyway, he does that, and they end up switching places instead. And since he's stuck in Garrosh's body, he can't actually use any magic inside the jail cell, so he has to get out in order to go back to his body to switch back. And meanwhile, Garrosh is inside his body, outside of the jail cell, miles away, because he was using a really long-range one. That's why it goes hairwire. And that's how the interactive story begins. You can either choose to follow Garrosh in the guy's body who tried to mind control him, or you can follow through the story of the guy who was trying to mind control Garrosh through Garrosh's body. And then you have to escape prison, or in Garrosh's body, if he tries to do that route, you go and do whatever he does. I have a story planned out for that. Basically, at the end of it, they meet up, and depending on choices you make, you either kill him or you don't. And it's a grand old time. I think it's an interesting idea for a video. I mean, it's not the most original idea in the world, but there's no such thing as an original idea. I think it's an interesting enough idea that's not seen very often. Okay, so it's an interesting enough idea that will fit within the Warcraft universe that I can use to create an interactive story with that'll have lots of funny deaths. There we go. That's a more better way to put it. It's also going to be another serious one because I don't have any ideas for a comedy one. I never even thought about it until I was talking about my interactive stories, to be honest. So yeah, I have one like half written out, and I'll probably make that sometime in the future. Not anytime soon though. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I answered that question enough. I like to make more interactive stories, but they take too long to make. And I can't properly justify the amount of time it takes to focus on one. when I could work on something else that would get actual views. Don't stand in the fire says, "Hey, hirumaredx, what do you think about WoW Legion? And what will you main going into Legion? I myself will be maining a shaman." Well, don't stand in the fire. I'll probably be maining a priest like I always do. What do I think of WoW Legion? It looks really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to get my weapon that I can level up with. I hope it's fun. I also really like the idea of having PvP exclusive talents. I kind of want to see how the PvP game will be, because of that. I also kind of want to see the new legendary systems they're putting in. I don't know if they're going to abandon them or not, because there's so many people who complain about the legendaries, where they're basically like Diablo legendaries, where you find them out in the wild just randomly, and they give you effects which like completely change your playstyle. Because in Diablo, when you get your gear, you can't play the way you want. You have to play the way the gear tells you to. Otherwise, you're not going to do enough damage to clear high enough rifts. That's why you have to get specific pieces of gear if you want to play a certain way. And some certain ways you can play, you just straight up can't, because the gear doesn't exist to complement that kind of style. So yeah, in my Diablo thing, I have enough gear if I want. I could change the way I play to a different kind of play style, but I kind of like the one I do now. But in WoW, they're trying to put in pieces of legendary gear that you get randomly that will allow you to change your play style, which I think is pretty fun. Because it's not going to be like Diablo where you need the pieces of gear, but they're going to be a significant enough, boost in whatever you do, DPS or healing, or maybe tanking. I don't know about the tanking ones, but it's going to allow you to change your rotation, kind of like how the Archimon trinkets work, where my Shadow Priest, with his Archimon trinket, he basically does the cop play style where you just spam Mind Spike instead of using dots. But it takes it a step further, because it used to be before the Archimon trinket, you had to spam Mind Spike, and then when you had 4 Shadow Orbs, you would put up your 2 dots, and then use your Devouring Plague, and you did this complicated rotation where you go through 2 Devouring Plagues, and you spam Insanity, and then you use your Mind Blast, all while you put up your dots at the exact moment, so that by the time all your Shadow Orbs are gone, and Devouring Plague leaves the target, and you can no longer use Insanity, that your dots only have like 1 more tick left, and you just go back to spamming Mind Spike. It was a really huge pain in the ass thing to keep track of in the middle of a fight, but it was a lot of damage, so it was totally worth it to do dot weaving. With the new trinket, you just straight up ignore dot weaving altogether because it's not worth it, and I love that, because fuck dot weaving. The new style is a lot more simple, and it's more DPS than dot weaving, and I think the new legendaries will do that too, but so many people are complaining about them that I don't think they'll actually make it. If they haven't been removed already, I don't really keep that up to date on Legion. I only really just hear the people things complain about, or that are major features. Like major lore events I've already been spoiled on, but legendary system is something I'm looking forward to, but it's probably not going to make it, because there's too much negativity on that, and Blizzard does listen to their fans, which is a shame. But also really like the artifact weapons, and the Legion story looks really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so Jonathan Nielsen says, "What program did you animate in?" Flash CS5. That's what I animate in. Just look up what Flash CS5 is, and you'll see that what I use to animate with. I usually just literally draw keyframes. I have to draw it all out. It takes forever. I have an entire channel dedicated to Flash animations. It's called The Unfunny Jokes, where I animate bad jokes, or just normal jokes or anti-jokes. They're not all bad jokes. Like, pretty sure most of them are actually pretty funny. But yeah, I animate in Flash. I also animate some stuff in Adobe After Effects. That's where I made the little thing where in my Old God video, what's it called? Factor Crap Old Gods. There's a part in the video where I talk about how Amonthul, the Titan, goes onto Azeroth and plucks Yasraj out like he's a tick, and then crushes him. I made that scene half in Flash, like I drew it out in Flash, and then I did the other half in After Effects, because I didn't want to have to draw a background or the world, so I just animated it there. I also do all my 2.5D animations in After Effects as well. Because After Effects is like it's a thing you use to like animate stuff. It's not something you really want to video edit in, even though it is basically a very in-depth video editor. I wonder if there's an analogy I can use to, compare After Effects to a normal video editor like Sony Vegas. After Effects is kind of like, I don't know, an astronaut going to space in a space shuttle, where they have all of these, different buttons and stuff that do a whole bunch of different things, compared to like a truck driver who drives a truck. Like they both don't do the same thing. That's why it's really hard to think of an analogy. But they're both means of transportation. One of them's more complicated than the other, but one of them can do more advanced things than the other. The truck driver can only drive on the road, but the guy in space can, go to space, go to the moon. But it's a lot more complex in order to go to the moon. But you can just, you can be a truck driver instead. It's a lot easier. It's not the easiest thing. Well, it is pretty easy, but the controls are a lot different and more simple. But After Effects, it's for more advanced stuff. Yeah, I guess that does kind of work. They're both modes of travel. It's not half-assed. It's not the perfect example, but that's kind of how it is. After Effects is a super advanced video editor that you use mainly just to create advanced things. You don't want to use it for general video editing. There is no way in hell I would switch over to After Effects for all my videos, because that would be such a pain in the ass. It takes so many steps to do something that's so simple in Sony Vegas. I would never do it. But then there's things in After Effects I can do that I just straight up cannot do in Sony Vegas because it's a simple video editor. So I use both of them. In Sony Vegas, you can animate in Sony Vegas too, to be honest. You don't have as much control as you do in After Effects, but it's actually a lot more simple. If you want to do simple animations, Sony Vegas is totally fine for that. Okay, last question. Razes33 says, what do you think about WoW PvP? I mean, do you think it's fun, and do you plan to start to do PvP on streams and stuff? Because I'm really interested in PvP and want to see someone else except Soda, who's not playing WoD because Vanilla's better. And I like only you and Soda. I'm done. Soda Poppin'. I'm pretty sure is what he's saying. He's a really popular Twitch streamer. PvP. I used to PvP a lot back in the day. Before something happened in game where I stopped PvPing. Basically, I met a partner, and then there was lots of drama with that partner's significant other, which caused me to stop PvPing because it put a sour taste in my mouth. But I did come back to it casually, years later after that. Before then, I was super hardcore into PvP. I never actually accomplished anything great, but I did PvP a lot. Like, rated battlegrounds. Tons of those. I have lots of fun stories about rated battlegrounds. And then doing arenas. Never got very far because I could never find a good enough arena partner. Until I did find a really good arena partner, and then the, significant other drama happened, and that cut that out. Which was very, very disappointing. I'm still really sad about that. But I don't really PvP anymore. I tried starting out again at the beginning of Warlords, but the PvP, it was very bursty. Like, PvP at the beginning of Warlords, its healing is super strong. Like, say for example, in one global cooldown, a healer could heal about like 30,000 damage. And in the same global cooldown, a DPSer could do about 20,000 damage. So a healer could heal more in a global cooldown than a damage could do damage. So, a damage dealer versus a healer could never kill him solo, because the healing was just too high. There's no way. Even with cooldowns, if the damage dealer popped cooldowns, the healer could just pop cooldowns and just out-heal anything they can do. Healing was too strong. The thing is, though, if you had two DPSers on one healer, you could burst them down. Potentially. Because burst was super strong. If you had a damage dealer versus a damage dealer, and they were both going at it, they'd both be, pretty evenly matched, doing very light damage to each other if there was no healer. After about a minute, they'd both be down pretty low, and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen next? But if you take the same scenario with both of those damage dealers, and one of them pops a cooldown, the other one's going to die. Because cooldowns gave you such a huge DPS boost that people were just melting. Because damage during cooldowns was insanely high. Basically, it was so high that outside of cooldowns, it was almost impossible to get a kill. I think that might still be the case. If you don't have a DPS cooldown, you're not going to kill anything. Another damage dealer, maybe, if you get lucky. Outside of a cooldown, you're just not going to do it. Killing a healer, outside of a damage cooldown, not happening. With a damage cooldown, still pretty iffy, because healing's really strong. So, PvP at the beginning of Warlords was really... I don't know if it's still like that, but it just wasn't very fun. Not being able to kill healers, and only being able to do stuff during cooldowns. And since you can only kill people during cooldowns, obviously the opponents are going to wait until you use a cooldown to pop a defensive cooldown, which coincidentally lines up with the same cooldown that you have. So you'd have to try to get them to pop their defensive cooldowns early. That way you could use your DPS cooldowns while they didn't have a defensive cooldown. But your damage outside of cooldowns was so low that they would never need to do that. So it was basically just trying to outwit your opponent into using their cooldowns while you still have your cooldowns. That's basically what the game was like, and it wasn't very fun. Alright, that's why I want to see if Legion will change that. If it does, I might get back into it, but I really don't have enough time to take it seriously. So if I do PvP, it's going to be casually, because doing PvP seriously, it takes a lot of time investment, and I already raid, and raiding is already, it takes more than enough time I already have. If you want to watch someone PvPs a lot, I do have a friend who does it, Hazelnutty Games. She PvPs like all the time. She PvPs like 5 days a week or something, and she's gotten up to like a 2400 rating. She does really good. She PvPs all the time. You should go check out her stream. If you want to see someone else besides Soda Poppin'. I know I watch her stream every once in a while too, just to see what PvP is like still. Well, I mean, and to talk to her through chat. But yeah, I don't really PvP, but I tried it a little bit and I didn't really like it. And I also decided I don't really have enough time to dedicate to it, because it takes a huge time investment. Alright, that's it. Looks like the video went over an hour anyway. Really wasn't expecting that. I even took the time to organize my list into a Word document, and it still took over an hour. God damn. I can really talk about nothing, can't I?